I'm highlighting that because we talk so much about having those partnerships, the right partners in place, and the right partners on your team, because they really are partners in these deals. And just going through the preliminary stuff here, it's helped guide the decisions to where you end up and how you're navigating this entire thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, even from, I'll just add one thing and then I'll let you chime in, Dave. I mean, even to your point, Sean, the seller, was a partner in this, right? Like, we had expectations going into this that once we found land and we had already established what we thought we needed from the bank, that we could close in 30 to 60 days. It took almost like 4 or 5 months for us to close. Yeah. And the seller could have easily said, forget it, this is taking way too long on out. So like, you're even talking about like needing to have and establish the right partnership with, the person you're buying the land from, the conversations you're having with the county and the government officials. I mean, it's everybody.
Yeah, 100%. And I will tell you, just from my experience of buying land that we're going to be doing any sort of development on, is that's a hard conversation. Like when I was doing a lot of development stuff, is I know how long it's going to take. You guys didn't know how long it was going to take when you started going into this. And sometimes kind of your naivety can be good with the sellers, because you're like, I think we can close on this in 45 days, maybe 60 days, right? And they're like, yeah, let's do it. And then you get 60 days in, you're like, we're not even close. So then you have to kind of renegotiate, right?
Yeah.
The hard part now is the next one. When you go talk to a seller, you're like, I need 4 or 5 months. They're like, sorry, bro. Everybody else is telling me 30 to 60 days. I'm not doing that. So like the reality, now that you know the reality, sometimes it's hard to negotiate that on the front end. So because you're right, the seller needs to be a partner on the deal, and you have to do a really good job of explaining what you're doing, why they should wait 4 or 5 months, maybe why they're getting a little bit of a premium there, all those different things. And so I'll tell you that for the next one, because the next negotiation is a little harder, because sometimes it's easier to renegotiate than like negotiate the 5 or 6 months up front.
Yeah, no kidding. Definitely. I mean, I think, some people are taking the approach. I want to jump back to partnerships in a second, but some people are taking the approach now, I think, of land acquisition and then approaching the commercial loan process that is essentially business loan. And we have the land. And if you can finance that way, I think, to your point, Sean, about, the difficulty you could run into with seller, that's probably a good idea. But it would have been a terrible idea for us, because one of our partners being Live Oak Bank and then walking us through the process of what we needed to do from a due diligence, and we then made sure that we were doing upfront diligence before we purchased something, before we even went under contract for something, and then during that diligence period in the contract, really nailing down things, we wouldn't have known what diligence to do. And so we could have really ended up in the wrong spot, right? On land that we could not build, for example, if we didn't walk through the proper zoning steps. So that is super important for us. But also on partnerships, I would just say that, like, leaning on Graham, first of all, he gave us a bunch of money, which is very helpful too. But Graham's knowledge and access to tools and things like that. I mean, when we were land searching, we would find a piece of land that we liked and we would completely rerun the deal, right? We would be doing air DNA research on the market. We'd be rerunning our own feasibility. We'd be talking about number of units because of the size or layout, and respinning that every single time and pitching it to the bank, say, what do you think, before we even get to the next step. I don't think we'd be able to do that with the knowledge and data we had without Graham and Vodyssey. Was, not going to be doable. Yeah. So, I mean, you're right. You have to bring the right people in. And I don't say that to scare people away, because I think if you're coming into this with just a concept, you're like, well, how would I find all of these great partners? And the truth is, you just have to start consuming information. Listen to podcasts like Sean's, listen to podcasts like, we were listening to, what was it? Glampatect North America is what they used to be called. They've rebranded. And finding partners like Live Oak Bank, make sure you work with Graham. I'm just kidding, for 10 years. And then, but I mean, you'll find the right connections. And I also think that in this space anyway, I don't know about all of short-term rental. You guys would be the experts there. But in this space of glamping and small sort of experiential hospitality, outdoor hospitality, we didn't find anybody that wouldn't talk to us.
Yeah.
I mean, you reach out,
so
you
right.
will get contacts, you will get partners.
Yeah, the people want to like network, share their resources, share the struggles, share where they had successes, and like even like within our Vodyssey family, it's been kind of the theme always. It's like you're just kind of paying it forward. We're trying to learn from each other, trying to continue to raise the bar. Graham started hosting our micro resort and glamping coaching call, and all of a sudden it's like you get a handful of people that are doing these micro resorts, and you're sharing the resources, you're sharing the lenders, you're sharing the things that you're learning on what you're doing there. And it just you're so right. It's so hard to do this stuff just on your own in a bubble, that having the right people around is so critical. And you mentioned something that I don't know if people picked up on, and I want to highlight it back, is the fact that you didn't just have the capital to go buy the land and then go start to do this can be a bit of it was a little bit of an insulation of risk, and maybe avoiding a mistake of buying the wrong land. I actually see that more often than you would think, as somebody that is well capitalized that says, I'm going to go do this, and they don't buy the right piece of property. They can't get the entitlements. They can't get there's no way to, navigate utilities, or there's easements that they didn't realize there was in there. And all of a sudden, their back's against the wall before they even start when they bought this land with this big idea, because all they saw was the land, and they didn't really understand all the things that you need to really be navigating with that land. And so it reminds me, I have my pilot's license and I fly, and the golden age of aviation was back in like the 60s and 70s. And you would have, all these great planes coming out, but all the rich, doctors and lawyers were buying them, but they didn't know how to fly, and they just had the money, and they're crashing the dang things, right?